Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and we're still in Dallas, Texas. We've come to Zion Lutheran Church, a very historic Lutheran church, formerly located in downtown Dallas, and now it's out here in the east side of town. We have come here to see the organ behind me. It is an organ originally built by Hermann Schlicker in 1969, and then installed in this church, and in that case in 1982, by Robert Sipe. Don Rotermund is the retired longtime organist and choir director. He was here when the Schlicker organ came to Zion Lutheran in their previous building and when it was installed into this building in 1982. He tells us a bit about the history of the building.
I came in 1955 as a new graduate from Concordia River Forest to a very welcoming congregation, especially with pastor and some leaders, to begin a music ministry. And their wish was longer range. When we moved from this facility, which was downtown, only blocks from some of the largest buildings down there, to the new facility, we know we're not going to be able to have a pipe organ, a new one, immediately. So in the interim time, we'll do what we can. But we think within 2 to 5 years, we'll be able to build the next, this facility.
So this was already in the planning when you...
Well, the congregation did have a whole view of what they'd like to do. So after not 2 years, but after about 10 years of dealing with an old, very temperamental instrument, which I'd like you can do with this as you like, but it had a forzando that would kick on unexpectedly. You didn't have to sit on the bench. That happened 1 or 2 times while Pastor Gertner was sermonizing. He was very defensive or helping us on the offense. He would right away say, "That's not the organist. The organ has some difficulties." That happened enough that people could see the instrument needs to be replaced. And that's where the earliest visions, I would say, of this instrument came. The plan was, let's buy a small amount of a new instrument that we could afford and make preparations for the future. They didn't know what that future was, if it was, and for what duration.
So in the 1960s, they're already planning for this organ, even though
oh
the
yes,
wasn't here.
Oh yes, in
dream.
The plan in their mind was, let's try for a 3-manual instrument and pedal that was pretty complete. But we'll make preparations in the console and in the manual chests so that only we'll have to do as we get money will be to add pipes, because then people can respond, "Oh, I paid for part of that," or this or that. And that worked favorably. So Schlicker's response was probably the most sensitive to us and to what could be done and what he'd be willing to do. And he worked with us very nicely. So he got the contract. And his delivery time was twice as long as the others. The others were, some would say a year and a half. To get this instrument and installed took over 3.5 years.
Is that just because he was so busy with
yes.
so many contracts?
When he asked me invited me and had me come to the shop when this was up there were 3 consoles very similar to this in the console shop. There was others. Yes, he was. And even through all that, he stayed pretty close to our product. But in those almost 4 years, 3.5 at least, we kept generating and keeping alive the idea of the organ coming, and any monies that we can accumulate now, we could increase it and so forth. So after a time, we felt we had enough, so we approached him about building the whole positive chest. Since it's slider chests, he wants to build the whole thing in one. We don't want add-ons. And that was our goal, to say, let's get an organ complete that we don't have all these tack-on stuff. We'll have problems. We had it with the other one. So that's how we proceeded. So when the organ was delivered on Ascension Day in 1969, all the pipework and plans, the 3-manual, it was complete with Zimbelstern, which we just thought we had arrived in heaven. Paul Montz dedicated it in the fall of that year. We've never had an attendance for a public event like that one.
Well, tell me about that organ a little bit in its original state. So it was a 3-manual organ. And it was all exposed, essentially.
No.
We have Swell box?
Yes.
But we didn't have a case.
Right. That was another part of what we did in the early planning. Said, let's try to include in early stuff the swell enclosure, so we have an instrument that's more expressive. So yes, when the organ came, I think it had everything. Cases, swell box as well.
So then, planning for this building then is the next step, and getting the organ in here.
That was an exciting time. Yeah. It didn't happen as fast as you'd like, but I could live with it because I was still enjoying what's there, and say where it's going to be, it's even going to be better. At least we're counting on it. So the planning on that had some challenges in that, as I mentioned to you earlier, the directive almost of the building committee, to speak to the chairman, said that organ's got to be playable when we have our first services of dedication. Wow, take it out, put it in. How early are you going to take it out, or we're going to have to do without it? And Bob, being one of three possible choices, again, we were directed, get 3 proposals, 3 bids. And the one that came in that was most attractive to us for what he'd do visually as well as some other features was Bob's. But Bob was very, very busy at that time.
So this is Bob Sipe, who's
Bob Sipe, excuse me. I'm sorry I didn't say that. The Robert Sipe Company, very, very competent people. Said, I think I can respond to you, but I'm going to have to do subcontract the removal and the erecting of the instrument, and I'm going to have, if they can do it, Laukoff build the case.
A German organ supply company.
Yes, you're familiar with them, I presume. Yeah, they're no longer in business, but they were for a long time. He had used them for numbers of his things, and quite successfully, I guess. And with that change, all of the facade pipes were going to be replaced because those old Principal 16s were bent from the heat that got into that area of the church and were trapped. And he says, I can put those in here, but God and everybody will see the dents. And I don't think you'd like that with all the other pluses. So Bob had the reinstallation done by these folks. So he would come in probably after being gone 2 weeks or so, spend a week here at home, and he'd schedule some of those days. He'd come here, and he did some of the revoicing and modifications of there, which there are quite a number, and kept us going. And every time he'd leave, there was always an improvement and advancement. He'd say, that's lovely.
So I've come up to the console here, and with me is Scott Hyslop, who is the music director here now at Zion. You've only been here a little while.
Yeah, just coming up on 2 years.
Okay, so you're still getting to learn this instrument, I guess.
Absolutely.
Although it's a Schlicker, you have a lot of experience with these. You know this style of instrument.
I have had experience playing Schlickers 2 congregations ago when my wife and I were serving a parish in South Florida. I played a Schlicker instrument there, but that was only 9 ranks. So it was a very small organ, and at some point in time, they doubled the size of the sanctuary, but they didn't double the size of the organ.
No, wow.
So Paul Montz had come and played a hymn festival for me once on that little Schlicker organ, and when it got done, he kind of leaned over and looked at me and said, "It's a little bit like a VW Beetle pulling a Greyhound bus up a mountain pass."
Well, as Don told us, Paul Montz dedicated this organ as well. And if you want to know more about Paul Montz, Scott is the guy who literally wrote the book on Paul. The name of your book, tell me again so we can...
The Journey Was Chosen.
The Journey Was Chosen. It's a biography of Paul Montz. It's a great book, and there's a link to it down in the description if you want to get a copy of it, because I recommend it. It's a wonderful read and taught me a lot about what an amazing guy he was. I should also add, this is the 5th Schlicker that we featured on this channel, and the 4th one that Paul Montz dedicated. And I don't know about the one that we skipped, because he might have been there too. I didn't ask. So it's very possible, because he and Hermann Schlicker were good friends and worked together a lot.
They were good friends, and at one point in time, I think that Paul was everywhere. I mean, at the height of his career, he was playing everywhere.
And that was 1969, when, of course, Paul was at the height of his career.
Yep.
And then in '82, it was brought into this room.
Yes.
And Bob Sipe created what we hear today. So it is a combination of Sipe, Schlicker is how you would refer to it, or would you call it a Sipe instrument with Schlicker?
I would call it a Schlicker Sipe instrument.
Okay.
I mean, you really, as I mentioned to you earlier, you really have the best of both builders represented here. I just made the comment before. I grew up in Minneapolis. I was very familiar with Mons's instrument, now Dave Cherwin's instrument at Mount Olive in Minneapolis, and the really stunningly beautiful tracker instrument that Bob Sipe built for Hennepin United Methodist. Also a very large instrument, very beautiful instrument. And so it just seems like poetry to be coming here and having the best of both builders at my fingertips.
Yeah, and so far from what I've heard, there's definitely some Schlicker sounds and there's some Bob Sipe sounds. So it's
Absolutely.
The mix of the best of both.
And not just Schlicker sounds, but I think, in '69 when this was first built for the previous building, the whole organ world was still kind of at the extreme edge of the whole Orgelbewegung. And, there were a lot of instruments being built that were just top heavy, and top heavy, fifth heavy, and so forth. And I think when this instrument came over here, Bob Sipe was able to take off a lot of those sharp edges and that. And
Give it a little more useful sound. All
yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Well, let's hear some of those sounds. I guess let's start with the great stuff, because the principal chorus is all Bob Sipe.
Yes.
That was all replaced from the original Schlicker. So let's just start with that. I'd like to hear the 8-foot principal.
Yeah. So that's the 8-foot principal, which is a very lovely, warm sound.
It speaks very immediately into the room, but it's still clear and warm. So
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
nice.
And then at the 4-foot octave, and then you add the 2-foot for the complete ensemble. Very satisfying.
Bright and
sound.
clear, and not overwhelming or loud or anything. It's just very nice and fills this room amazing. The acoustics in here are as promised.
Yeah, as the saying goes, that the most important stop on the organ is the acoustic of the room. And Don Rotermund and the folks of that time nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, the room is really spectacular, and the organ sounds terrific in it.
Okay. Well, let's keep going up and put the mixture then on top of that. Very nice.
Not overly assertive, nothing that's really kind of shaking you or anything. It's just the perfect capping touch to the principal chorus.
Okay, and then where do we go from there in that division?
In terms of the grade, there are some wonderful flute sounds in here, which this is where I hear Herman Schlicker's voice clearly, the flutes on this instrument period. So that's just the 8-foot Spielflöte, and then adding to that the 4-foot Hohlflöte.
It's interesting. It's kind of a covered sound, but colorful at the same time.
Absolutely, it
That's
is.
definitely that Schlicker attribute.
Yeah, it's a wonderful combination. I mean, the grade unto itself is a great instrument right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then unusual, I think, is that there is an 8-foot trumpet on the instrument. This is a trumpet that was original to the '69 Schlicker, and then Bob Sipe reworked it for the instrument, a trompeta. So you have the more Germanic sound there versus the trumpet, which is up on the Swell, the French trumpet.
I see. So that blends better, I assume, then with your great chorus.
Yes, absolutely.
In there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to even do a little of that, again, the whole great chorus with the 8-foot reed. again, it's just the perfect, very harmonious
It
family.
just sits in there, doesn't
Yep.
obliterate it or make it too loud. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, excellent. That's the great division. And you added there's a 16-foot Gibbs horn there.
There is, which again is a terrific addition. Just adds the gravitas to the entire ensemble, as I, even here just. So yeah.
Yeah, just those 9 ranks is all you to get all that sound is pretty amazing.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And again, as I had mentioned, I played a 9-rank Schlicker in Florida. That was pretty much the instrument right there.
All right. Well, where do we go from there then?
From there, let's go up to the Swell, which
Okay.
now we're getting into the territory. This instrument is just tremendously rich with color. Starting with sort of the principal background underneath it. There's a solitional, 8-foot solitional. So you have the string. And what I find is putting it together with the 8-foot flute. And then add the 4-foot principal. You have the beginnings and with the 2-foot flute on top. So again, comparing that to the chorus, the principal chorus on the great. It's a very satisfying minor chorus.
There's a foil to it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
And then, we start getting into, as I pointed out, the 8-foot solitional has its partner, the voix celeste, and again, it's just a very lovely. And it works well, actually. You can even, the celeste works well with the flute.
I seem to remember that about other Schlickers, that the flutes and the celestes.
The cut-ups are just right, so that they all work together very, very nicely. And then moving on, we start getting into the mutations and the mixtures. Again, just to demonstrate with that small principal chorus with the mixture on it, on the Swell. So again, nothing offensive there at all.
It's almost enough to accompany a small group in here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Huh.
And that's the other thing. Also, what is just genius, I think, about the rebuild. The Swell box itself is very effective. I mean, if I wish to close it all up and. When I get to the reeds, I can demonstrate that even a little bit further. But it's a very nice, effective part of the instrument itself. Moving into the mutations, and good grief, we could do an entire show just on the mutations on this instrument, because you can swing them just about any which way you want. Okay. Just building up here using the Rohrflöte with the Nazat. Solo stop. Again, you can add the 4-foot flute into that. And then again, moving up to the terz, the 1 3/5, I'm sorry. Again, with just the 8-foot flute. And again, with the 4-foot flute. Again, these are stops. I mean, just the 4-foot and this. You can take things down an octave, up an octave. I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, it's just a delight. Basically what you have with the mutations here is you have the cornet décomposé. If we put that all on together, you get the more classic. And then the real fun and the real power on the swell is found in the reeds. And we are blessed beyond measure to have the full complement of reeds up here, which, again, this instrument, which probably in its 69 iteration, probably would have been much more favorable to Northern German era music, and that now you can really fairly safely play literature from almost all eras on this instrument, and it works well. And I think again, the reeds, it's just too much fun. So again, and if you add the mixture, and maybe you don't have to, but you can add the 8-foots down there and you get the. The growl of the instrument.
Yeah, a big full sound without being too loud or overwhelming.
Absolutely.
It's definitely full.
Yeah,
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, let's listen to those. I just want to hear each one of those reeds just to see how it
absolutely,
goes.
yeah. The trumpet, the French trumpet,
we have this
sorry.
French trumpet.
Again, a very a beautiful, bright, more just the perfect amount of nasal quality to the tone.
Yeah, a lot brighter than the great. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
And
then if we go up to the oboe. So again, just a very pleasing,
lovely,
beautiful,
useful color there.
Yeah, absolutely, right? There is. And then the 4-foot clarion. And if you put that with the trumpet, it's a very happy marriage. And then going down to the 16-foot reed, the bassoon.
bright and fiery, but none of them out of control. Or
Yeah, each one has its own unique character, but they still work together.
Blend together really well.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And then I guess we go down to the positive.
The positive, which again is a wealth of color on this instrument. I have to tell you, I am so delighted beyond all expectations to have a 1-foot sifflute. This baby can do just about anything. Again, the color that it has is just very, it's just delightful. Just with the 8-foot and the 1-foot. I'm a big fan of gap registrations. I think some of that, I had the privilege of studying with Paul Monson. Paul also.
I was about to say he would.
He used the craziest of gaps, and it worked.
Yeah.
And it just worked. Let's. Another combination, getting in, widening the gap a little bit. If I were to bring the positive to the great, and with that 16-foot, and maybe something soft up against it for a little bit. All kinds of different things you can do with it.
Okay.
And then moving on throughout, again, we've got the small principal chorus also on the positive. If you put the 8-foot flute together with the 8-foot Gems horn, 4-foot principal, 2-foot octave. Very, very bright.
Yeah.
I mean, it holds its own it accounts for itself very well.
Definitely.
And then the final combination, there's the 1 1/3, the Klein Nazat, up on the positive. And that's another one too. If you want to, you can also bring that down to the. Everything goes better with a 16-foot.
I know, I have to kind of listen to it to figure out what's happening because that's such a distant.
It is.
It's like one sound in one ear and one in the other.
It is exactly that. And then the final really lovely stop on here is a sweet little crumb horn. And again, you can do whatever you like with it.
Yeah, it's that much more thin Germanic sound, though.
It is. I had a teacher once that referred to it, a sound like that as being a very chaste and pure sound. So,
Right.
Sure, okay.
And the one manual stop we haven't discussed is the big trumpet that's sticking out of the case up there.
The Trompeta Real,
Yeah.
which is just a crowning glory on this instrument. It really does not serve as a chorus reed. I would never put it on top of a full ensemble. I think you'd start to do damage in the room. But it makes a wonderful accounting for itself. Here it is, just with basically a principal to mixture chorus, and then I'll take it up another step. even ride over a fuller ensemble than that. Yeah.
Works.
Yeah, it does.
So definitely a solo read and not a
definitely a solo read, and definitely I really think there you clearly hear Bob Sipe, because Hermann Schlicker's on Shamad type of reeds and that were reeds that you could use as a crowning chorus.
They kind of blended in.
Yeah, exactly. And they also had a raspier, raspier quality to it. This is a very round and warm sound as far as I can tell.
Okay.
So, just a terrific stop though, very useful.
Well, that's all our manual stops. What do we have in the pedal division?
We got a whole lot in the middle.
That's what it looks like.
I'm not even quite sure. Well, let's start with the principals again. And the 16-foot principal is what you see in the facade. And there's the big one. And then adding the 8-foot octave to that. And the 4-foot principal to it also. So that's the backbone of the whole chorus right there. And you can add, there's a 2-foot Gemshorn also. And then going from there, if you wish to add, there's a 3-rank mixture in the pedal, independent. If you wish to, you can add. Then there are 16 8 and 4-foot reeds in the pedal division. Well, actually, 32 16 8 and 4. So you've got the whole battalion cooking away. Well, we're not going to start there. Adding the 16-foot Posana, which is a lovely stop on this instrument. Matter of fact, let's hear it by itself. That's a 16-foot there, and then there's an 8-foot trumpet, which is a wonderful solo stop to use. Oh. Very assertive, very round, dark,
big,
warm.
Full sound.
And again, as we were talking about before, if you want to hear all of the trumpets on their own, starting in the pedal. So that's the trumpet pedal, then going to the grate. And then up to the swell. And then, of course, the real. Each one of them has their own
very unique
character, but again, it all works together. And I think I tip my hat. Well, Hermann Schlicker was a genius with that sort of work, but Bob Sipe really just took it to the next level in that. Again, the possibilities of color with this organ are endless. I mean, you really could just be busy for a long time.
We do have a couple of flutes in the pedal as well.
We do have a couple of flutes. We have the 16-foot sub bass. And And to pair, well, we'll do it individually. Here's the 8-foot flute. And then, of course, we have two 32-foot stops. The sub bass, we'll just do it like this. Gets down to the point where, as they say, you feel it more than you hear it.
Yeah, indeed.
And then, of course, there's the 32-foot contrapasana. And I believe that these are both digital stops. And again, that's the 32-foot reed is a wonderful one. You know, if you really want to make an impression. It's so well done. It's there, you know it's there, it has a presence, but it doesn't obliterate everything else.
It just helps. Well, and the organ, for its place of prominence here, it speaks into the room really well. It's not overwhelmingly loud, but definitely makes itself known and is clear and bright and a wonderful instrument full of a lot of colors.
Yes, without a doubt.
So you enter the organ through this door on the side. There's one on either side of the case. The first thing we see are some of the electrical components, the rectifiers, and then we're going in and we're underneath the swell box now. There's the swell motor going up to the shades. See lots of tubing and wiring, and then here are some switches. Keyboard junctions and things are back here. Some stop switches or for some of the, I guess, added things. We have a ladder that takes us up here. We're underneath the swell. We see some of the tubing for the facade pipes. Over there we have the pedal reeds. There's the blower box. And we go up, and there's a walkboard here between the swell and grate chest, and there's the grate pipework. We're going to go up the ladder, and you can see the back of the facade. And we've got up the ladder, and we're up on the walkboard behind the grate. We have another look at the facade there. And then grate pipes, some offsets and pedal pipes. I believe there are some speakers there for the 32 on the walkboard. Our great trumpet is here closest to us. And the swell box is over there. And a ladder that continues to go on up. We're going to go up there first, and now we are at the top of the case. The positive division is right here. It's on two chests, one on either side, with some offsets. We can see the facade pipes there. Two of the biggest pipes are actually inside the case. And in order to make them speak and make them low enough, they're actually Haskelled, and we can see the tops of the Haskell cans there. This is the other chest for the positive. Looking back around, we see the other chests, facade tubings. Here's a close-up look at the crumb horn and the mixtures. Now, it was relayed that this was all cone tuned originally by Schlicker, and Bob Sipe replaced the cone tuning with tuning slides. And we see the reeds, but then there's one rank there that's tapered that appears to be still cone tuned. And I'm guessing just because it's tapered, maybe that's more difficult to straighten out and put a slide on, so he's just managed to leave the cone tuning intact. Very nicely finished wood pipes, and then back against the wall, down on the floor, we have some pedal pipes. Not quite on the floor, but coming down from the lower level. And we're going back towards the middle, and there's our ladder that we came up, but above it is the Zimbelstern. We didn't really mention that earlier, but we'll hear a little more about that later. So we're going to go back down to the swell box, which is held shut by these two latches. And we open it up. This is one of two doors. This is the door that lets us access the pipes in the front of the chest. And once again, I see we have a tapered stop there, the copper flute that appears to still be cone tuned. So I guess the tapered pipes just aren't worth putting slides on. Shades looking out. We're going to close that door, go around to the other one, and the chest comes all the way up to the side of the box, which means you have to step over those smallest pipes in that little corner to get in without hitting any pipes, which we've managed to do thanks to the fact that there's a handle on the ceiling that lets you sort of swing in. I believe that's our oboe there. Some offset pipes. And I think this is the 16-foot reed on the back that's been a little newer pipe. Different type of construction with a scroll opening in it. And our lowest pipes we see have been Haskelled. One mitered that looks like the miter might be giving away there. Our swell shades have been painted black at the top where they were showing through. That's interesting. Now we're back going down the ladder. This is the sliders for the grates. And that's the blower again, looking under the grate here. And we see the pedal reeds. at the back of the case. And now we're backing out. And back out into the church where Don will tell us about that Zimbelstern we saw.
The Zimbelstern was a late acquisition. It came about because we, again, had, what shall I say, kind of promoted it as a feature that some person could give in memory. In fact, we did take a little clue from Paul Montz. Paul's has 7 bells, and he did that because there were 5 children, I think, that they had. I think that's how he told me, and 2 adults. So I think that one in Mount Olive is 7. Ours is 6. There's no significant number except we couldn't afford 7. Our AAL insurance man at that time said, you know, Don, we'd like to make some contribution in some way to the instrument because it was coming close to time. Like, what's left? I said, the Zimbelstern. Well, they didn't have money, but so what they did, and I don't have one here, a group of couples got together, and do you know what decoupaging is? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the project being. So the group assembled in the basement of the other building for a number of evenings over a course of weeks, and did the several steps and finally slacking. And for those, they used pictures from Martin Luther's an anniversary calendar. That's the visual stuff. And then ladies and men worked with those, digging out edges and sanding and doing all that, so that we came up with, I think the cost at that time was $600, which seems infinite. But Schlicker's approach to Zimbelstern is different than many of the others. He uses a camshaft, kind of like in a motor, with back, and those things jingle. You've been up there to see them. But he made them so there was some flexibility for speed, and that's how essentially we got those. So in the end, when the instrument came, those people could be satisfied and appreciative. They could hear bells, ding-a-lings. So we used them, not every time, but frequently on doxological stanzas, and say, oh, they could, recognize them. Sorry, I don't mean to be playing to the public and using them, but they were just opportunities they could enjoy and recognize, just like the Celeste, even the 1-foot Sif lady that you played and has eyes go up with a number of organs that we want to do with those. I find it a delightful stop on this organ, and that was was left to the end that people could identify. Sufficient. Same for a 16-foot reed in that end.
I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the Schlicker Sipe organ here at Zion Lutheran in Dallas, Texas. It's been a lot of fun bringing it to you. If you've enjoyed it, please go down below and click the thumbs up. Make sure you're also subscribed to our channel and click the bell to get notifications for new videos that'll be coming out. We still have another video coming out here from Dallas, Texas. We're able to be here thanks to sponsors like Michael Meyer in Michigan, who make it possible for us to come down here and make these videos. If you would like to become a sponsor, we have a special video level. You can go to our website at organ.media and click on support. You can see all of the various giving levels that we offer. Although any contribution all goes to making these videos possible and bringing them to you. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll join us for another video. Until then, I'm Brent Johnson. Thank you for watching.